Rick and Morty comic issue 34. We start out seeing an alien of Krombopolis, Michael, the sniper species, saying that they've gathered the best of the best here. And the Galactic Federation spared no expense putting together the best strike force for this mission. And he tells them all to state their names and expertise. Which isn't interesting me because practically none of them will probably go on to be really used characters. It's confusing to me that the guy who looks like Michael from the show calls someone else Michael. And it compliments them all on being scary or useful. Finally, we see Michael, the cheerful sniper who just loves killing. The guy of his species says relatably that they can't have two Michaels and they need to distinguish the two. So this is a good way of justifying his name right away. He's from Krombopolis, so we got the nickname Krombopolis Michael. It's great writing to immediately think to justify the most confusing thing about a character being adapted. The leader says that this mission is going to require coordination and organization. The target's deep inside a heavily guarded stronghold, and they'll need to work together with clockwork precision. And for the rest of the night, they're going to go over the planetals memorized front and back until they strike in the morning. This seems boringly slow-paced so far. Nothing's really happening. The leader tells them to make their peace with their loved ones before tomorrow, and Michael says he doesn't have any because there's not enough room in his heart for anything besides his love of killing. He meditates, and the next morning, after he's briefly seen as a deserter of the team, we see him call them sleepyheads and say that he went ahead and knocked out all the killing, and there were 0 survivors. He sheepishly apologizes because he did all himself, and he doesn't want to share any of it from now on. This is why he's such a humorous character. Perfect example of crossing the line twice. He's just so outlandish. Realistically, his leader's terrified of him. Then we cut to Rick in his younger days with his friend Bird Person, who says he's not sure about this choice of venue as Rick's holding a guitar for a band. Rick says he's gotta meet a guy real quick, and Bird Person says he'll pick nits from his feathers until he returns. Michael says near Rick that he used to work for the government, but being in the private sector is a lot more profitable. Rick asks to get 3 of everything from the bar, and it turns out Mike already knows Rick and says it's great to finally meet him in person, and Rick knows him. He asks if he's got the thing and is told yes, and asks how Rick knows if this is gonna work, whatever that is. A purple guy asks who's playing tonight and then insults the band indirectly. Oh, I guess that was the name of Rick's band. I wasn't used to the idea that he was in a band. This is such a forgettable idea that I actually learned it all over again when I got to a later issue that makes a whole story about this. Rick shoots him to death with a ray gun, though it's not so bad compared to how he looked before, being like a liquid alien. The bartender just reacts with annoyance, saying that they can't be killing people in here, as if he's already used to this somehow. Rick tries to justify his misdeed, saying that he did the bartender a favor because those guys are hell in a bathroom. And Michael respects him as Rick doesn't get 3 of everything. We cut to him thanking Rick for the weapon and paying for it. I guess out of the kindness of his heart because he's enabling him. And he asks Rick if he's okay because he looks different. Rick says he met someone and he thinks he's in love. Rick tells him that he should open up his heart and one day he'll know how he feels, being more happy back then. And Michael just thinks it sounds dumb. It's satisfying to see the show me what you've got Cromwell get destroyed by Michael after the episode he caused. I have to assume these are magical beings, and that's why they can survive in space and make technology. They're probably artificial life forms who don't need to breathe and use telekinesis. Michael likes the nostalgia of revisiting his home planet, and after fleeing a successful hit, he jumps and grabs onto a pipe against the wall of a city building and bumps into what would be his girlfriend, and apologizes, and she brushed it off, laughing at his clumsiness. Lucky for her, a killer is polite enough to apologize for bumping into her. At first you'd think it's pointless for the story to give him a girlfriend when we already saw enough of his backstory really early on, but a girlfriend of his does come back later in the comic, so it's worth it. We see a montage showing that she married him even after finding out about his job, cause love is blind. And then there's some redundant panels if you already saw the episode he appeared in, when all we really needed to see was Morty crashing the spaceship through the wall behind him, and his girlfriend being called about his death. And it turns out that Rick was blamed, I guess because it's his spaceship. And how likely is it that Morty would have driven it? But how did anyone know it was his spaceship while not knowing who was driving it? I guess Rick's spaceship is the only kind of spaceship that looks like that. Wouldn't Morty been caught on surveillance? She cries over his loss and decides to take up his job. This story was about giving a backstory to the fan-favorite sniper from the show who just loves killing. His ridiculously cheerful and innocent personality, while probably unrealistic, was the whole thing that made him humorous. So it was nice to see a story about him, even if the endless repetition of his one-joke personality trait threatened to run the joke into the ground. There's a reason he was only a brief one-episode character. Normally, the comic Rick and Morty are different universe versions, so it sure would be a big coincidence if the comic Morty killed this Michael in the same exact situation. What's worth it about the story is that it finally justifies why Michael has this confusing nickname, which would normally make as much sense as Rick being called Earth Rick, and explains that he used to work for the government, so that's what got him killing. And it's revealed he has a girlfriend, which only matters because she gets to show up later in the comic. Although since she explains herself in that issue, we didn't really need to see this.